Now, there is no doubt about it that Pedro Pascal and Disney CEO Bob Iger really turned the Fantastic Four into a political talking point, pulling the blame game, really scapegoating to the maximum level, and really shifting a lot of Marvel fans to really decide to just stay at home and really just wait this thing out to arrive on Disney Plus instead. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. Now, about the Fantastic Four, we know that the box office metrics really aren't anywhere near to what Disney had hoped for in the very early stages of promoting this film, of really starting the marketing campaign for this movie. They really hoped that this movie would hit around $600, $650, maybe even $700 million worldwide at the box office for a Fantastic Four film. That's looking extremely unlikely right now, after the metrics, of course, for the past couple of days. Now, what's interesting about all this is that we know that this is, yes, labeled as a box office disaster for the Disney company, based on the budget of the film, also based on the overall marketing expense that actually went into this movie, which was very expensive. But one thing about all of this is that we know that there's an obvious case of Marvel fatigue going on right now, but I think what it really boils down to is that there's a lot of Disney fatigue going on. It's basically how Disney runs Marvel, how they're handling these characters, how they're handling the casting of these specific characters, and more. Now, what's interesting about this yet again is that we know that Disney CEO Bob Iger just seemingly can't stop turning this into a political narrative at this point and really pulling the blame game toward Trump, his administration, his supporters, now even Maga, quote-unquote. Things are really going out of control when it comes to Disney and Marvel Studios. Let's discuss. Now, with the Fantastic Four box office now stagnant at $446 million worldwide and likely to change a little bit once we get out of this weekend, those out there like Pedro Pascal, Kevin Feige, and even Disney CEO Bob Iger have been doing damage control and turning it into a political narrative and playing the blame game to the maximum level. Now, one major development now involves more to do with Disney CEO Bob Iger yet again, now blaming Maga. Bob Iger recently delivered the following. We view Marvel as one of our most successful business models out there, and for anyone to suggest that our brand is going through a decline or our customers are going through a fatigue of Marvel content is just a ridiculous claim coming from those that support Trump's administration. I think from where I'm sitting, we are seeing a political bias going on. We are seeing MAGA Republicans refusing to go to the cinema anymore, not just with the Disney company, but also from some of our very own competitors that shall remain nameless. When you are dealing with difficult politics in 2025, supporters of this administration will do anything to sabotage any company, organization, or studio that supports DEI, and that is by definition freedom of speech going through a suppression. As for the financial status of the Fantastic Four First Steps, a very valuable project of ours, I can't stress this enough, but do not believe in the political talking points coming from the right or coming from those that follow Trump's policies. I am very confident in the numbers that we are seeing right now for the Fantastic Four, and though we sadly did not hit the margin that we wanted to and that we hoped for, those numbers and metrics I think that were missed due to political reasons, coming from the right and coming from those that can't decide to not drag politics into our entertainment field. To claim that Disney's support for DEI is any kind of an agenda is nothing more than a political talking point coming from those that support this administration. And that's the problem that we are facing today. That's the problem that many studios are facing today in 2025. That's our greatest threat, not just here at the Disney company, but for the entire industry, that we must tackle, and in order for us to strictly focus on entertainment, we have to focus away from all the noise. We have to pay less attention to that, I think, in order for our creators to succeed and to do the work that they need to do to create valuable and engaging entertainment. As CEO, it is in my full interest to address the political bias that we are seeing from our very own customers even, refusing to go back to the cinema. Now guys, let me just stop right there for one moment. Now, there are multiple reasons why people decided to stay at home and not see this movie, right? Number one, people may have just thought that maybe perhaps Pedro Pascal was miscast as Mr. Fantastic. Perhaps people just don't care enough for the Fantastic Four being handled by Disney, and how a lot of trust was lost from the Disney company after multiple failures over the years. You know, especially in 2025 with Snow White, Captain America, Brave New World, and even Thunderbolts, which was an okay film. It wasn't a terrible film by far, but box office-wise, it was another disappointment for Disney. And so they're going through a lot of failures, even in 2025, and it's not a good look, not for Marvel, not for anything related to the Disney company live-action department in general, and more. So, Elio, even, was another disaster for Pixar, and it's continuing to worsen over time. People are just losing all faith in Disney. They're moving over to, you know, Warner Brothers giving DC a chance, giving the DC Universe a chance at the very minimum. But what's interesting here is that he goes on to actually blame MAGA, Trump supporters, and Trump's administration yet again, and really putting more focus on quote-unquote MAGA Republicans this time. The fact that Bob Iger is really just going off the rails now and really beginning to become more and more political over the past 2.5 months, I think it comes from, or stems from the fact that he just doesn't flat out care anymore. He knows that he's stepping down next year. He does plan to actually call it quits in 2026. In fact, the board of directors, they want him out next year. That's really what's all going on right now. But he goes on to allude further, as CEO, it is in my full interest to address the political bias that we are seeing from our very own customers refusing to actually go back to the theaters, and just how much it's hurting our industry. This is obviously coming from one side of the country, and we have to continue to address the serious division going on in this country today. In light of all of this, I will confirm and proudly state that we are going to focus greatly on the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion, starting off with Avengers Doomsday. And for groups like Maga to label this as an agenda, if you want to call it woke or whatever, then I don't think you even know what the word even means. This is nothing more than an opportunity to expand our global audience reach. So, look, we know that Avengers Doomsday is going to have a very wide cast, right? Almost everyone imaginable is going to be in this movie, right? Because it does actually bring an epic conclusion to a lot of multiverse aspects in there, right? That's another thing that a lot of people, I think, have a lot of criticism about, is that there may very well be just way too many characters shoehorned into this movie, that it may feel a little convoluted, right? But looking at the starting point of 2025, looking at the momentum opportunities that they lost, think about it. If Brave New World was successful, if Thunderbolts was successful box office-wise, I'm talking about, by the way, as for Fantastic Four as well, they would have had a massive momentum ahead of 2026 for Spider-Man Brand New Day, for Avengers Doomsday, and so on and so forth. And now you're not seeing that momentum anymore. It really makes you wonder, will Spider-Man do numbers? Will Avengers Doomsday do numbers? I'm sure that those films, by the way, are going to do way better than the films that we saw by Marvel this year. That's just a fact, I think. But in no way I think that you're going to see the $1.1 billion mark worldwide ever again when it comes to Marvel anytime soon, unless they change their overall mood, they change their overall outlook on diversity, equity, and inclusion, and focus more on the fans, focus on respecting fans more. But I would like to hear what everyone has to say about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.